Hope you enjoyed and survived the nature trail, because that gives you an idea of why the city of Dan was established here and why it goes back to a very early period in time. In the Bible, the first reference is in Genesis chapter 10. Genesis 10 is the so-called Table of Nations. That's how the nations spread after the flood. And it says there, it talks about the board of the Canaanites. That is Genesis 10 and verse 19. And the border of the Canaanites was from Sidon. Now Sidon is right across the mountains where the sea is, yes? Due west from here. As you come into Gerar and Gaza, you all know where the Gaza Strip is. As thou goest unto Sodom and Gomorrah, Admah and Zeboim. Well, you go to see that place where Dr. Steve Collins is excavating there, just on the other side of the Jordan of Jericho. And then even unto LASHA. And this place is known, before it was called Dan, either LASHA here or Leshem in Joshua here, because it was from 1947. It's also called Laish. So there was then, if we're talking about Genesis 10, that is just after the flood. That is about 4,500 years ago. So this site was already established. Then Abraham in Genesis 14, he pursued those kings that came from Mesopotamia, the invaders that came from the north and invaded the land, captured a lot. He pursued them even unto Dan. And here then the battle took place between the forces of Abraham. He had 318 young men educated in his house. Is educated. So he taught his sons and his servants not only to believe in God, but also how to handle sword and bow. And they could overcome 5 armies of the Mesopotamian kings there. But then we go forward to the time of Joshua, when the tribe of Dan, we already referred to, is in the area of Tel Aviv and the airport, because they couldn't drive out the Amorites who stayed near the coast. A group of them went to this area, and they say Dan went up to fight against Leshem. Remember, I pointed out that there's a spring that still has got the name Leshem preserved, one of the ancient names of Tel Dan. And they dwell there and called Leshem or Laish, Dan after the name of their father Dan. But we're in the tribe of Naphtali, but this part belongs to the tribe of Dan. Yes, and he already set up then a site for idol worship. That's I think in Judges chapter 17, or Joshua 17. In Joshua 17, 17. So we read there that Joshua spake to the house of Ephraim, to Joseph Ephraim, thou art a great people, has great power, thou shalt not have only one lot, but the mountain shall be thine. But then they went to Laish, and then we get that sordid story of the priest, and that and they took the priest from Micah, Jonathan by name, son of Gershom, son of Moses, and they set up here an altar and an ephod to worship false gods also. So I've been here at the time of pagan worship here, and then we come to the time of the kings. Just after King Solomon died, we have King Jeroboam in 1 Kings chapter 12, and it says that the king took counsel. That is Jeroboam, while Rehoboam was king over Judah and Benjamin. And the king took counsel because he said, well, during the time of the festivals, Passover, Pentecost and the Feast of Tabernacles, they all go to Jerusalem. So it says, the king took counsel, made 2 cows of gold, and said, it's too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. Behold, I got to Israel, which brought you up out of the land of Egypt. He said, that one in Bethel and the other in Dan. And this thing became a sin, for the people went to worship before the one, even unto Dan. And he made a house of high places and made priests of the lowest of the people, which were not of the sons of Levi. And it became an abomination in Israel. Why Dan? Because it's the northern border of the territory he ruled over, and Bethel was his southern border. That's about 10 kilometers north of Jerusalem. So at both ends of his kingdom, he built temples. There's a golden calf in it, going back to the Exodus chapter 32, and that was the place. Now Jeroboam built a city here, and these are the city walls from that particular time. In Abraham's time, when the city was called Laish or Leshem, there was also a city, and there's one gate also preserved, that's a bit further on. Now inside the city, we can walk up here. We walk through the gateway, and Iron Age, in time of the kings, gateway, Jeroboam built a gateway here. We can walk to the gate chambers, and then it's a short walk to the temple which he built, which is still there. The platform is still there, built by Jeroboam. You can sit on the steps of the temple of Jeroboam, but I'm sorry the golden calf is gone. Okay? But that's the way they build walls. Now just the plan of what we are trying to do here. We finished with the Jordan so far. I hope you got a good impression of the Jordan, learn the lesson of the Jordan. Now we go to the city of Dan during the time of the kings, when Jeroboam built this city, and we go to see his temple. And then we come back here, you can see the bus is right here, and then we follow the group that goes there, and we can see a gateway from the time of Abraham. So there's three things to see here from an archaeological point of view. The gateway, you've got to learn a few things about that as well. The temple which Jeroboam built for the golden calf, and then we come back here, and there's still got some path. Then we can walk to the gate from the time of Abraham. Now when they were excavating here, you see there's all paved with stones. There is archaeologists, Michael for example, was to make a plan of every stone here. And then, well, to you they may all look the same, but you can soon pick out when one stone is different from another one. And so some archaeologists said, well, this looks like a normal cobble. Turn it around, there's an inscription on it. Part of a big stele, a victory stele, written by King Ben-Hadad from Syria, commemorating a victory over, I think it was Ahab or some king of Israel, and it mentions Beit David, the house of David. And so the first time when we have in archaeology proof that David existed. I said, oh, why do you have to prove it? I believe that David existed. Well, so do I. I don't need archaeology to prove the Bible right, but it's a wonderful confirmation. If it says the house of David, that means the dynasty of David. So David started a dynasty. We have Solomon, we have Jeroboam. That is called the house of David. And the inscription dates to 900 BC, only 100 years after David died. There is a wonderful confirmation that was found right here. It's used all the time in archaeology to prove, well, even the minimalists who deny the Bible said, well, we can't deny that there was once a dynastic house of King David. Now a gate is not simple an opening in the gateway. You have an entrance court, and you're always entering from the left hand side. Like that?
Defense?
Yeah, that's right, for defense purposes. But then you come to the inner gate, and we're going to stop there as well.
Enter from the left hand side. Let's see, I knew that once.
So this is the first gate.
jossa on sitten annettu tuomioita. Eli ketä tahansa ei olla päästetty sinne kaupunkiin sisälle. Tässä kaupungin fortistukset on tehty.
When King David had to flee after Absalom was killed. Okay, so we are now in the court after before we and this is what gave us the first game. The victory, right? And one says in 2 Samuel 9, and then what we read about when Jeroboam said, King David had to flee and speak comes from that servant, I swear by Yahweh, they will not tell you after Absalom was killed, then all the evil that David was grieving for Absalom, and the king arose and sat in the gate. There's only one place where kings sitting away from standing and don't come out to greet them. When you came in from the gate, one sentence was there in 2 Samuel 19. When Jeroboam said, rise therefore, go forth and speak comfortably to thy servant, for I swear by Yahweh, if thou go not forth, they will not tarry one with thee this night. And the king was that will be worse in thee than all the evil that befell thee from thy youth until now. And the king arose and sat in the gate. There's only one place where kings should sit, where the king sat in the gate. When you came in, you came into the gate. The only place where the mayor of the city or the king of the city would sit and receive important business. Imagine in Machanai was something similar. He was David sitting, and then he would read all the people that came screaming back from the back, and the cannon against Absalom. And the king was sitting here, so there's David, or the ruler of the city here, to receive the dignitaries that come in through the first gate, and then he will leave the actual gate, which is got chains on both sides. So the king sat in the gate, but this is a good illustration. That's the only place where the mayor of the city or the king of the city will sit to receive important business. So imagine in Machanai there was something similar. He was David sitting, and then he would greet all the people that came screaming back from the battle.
You've always meant to sit on the throne of the king.
We're going by. We've done your battle, Steve.
Yeah, he says his real throne is at home. It's porcelain.
Oh, Stan, why don't you sit up there? I'll get you too.
You want to have one more shot?
Yeah.
Stan, why don't you get up?
Where my real throne is, right? David, King David.
Yeah, they should put a toilet there.
You've always meant to sit on the throne of the king.
We're going by. We've done your battle, Steve.
Yeah, he says his real throne is at home. It's porcelain.
Oh, Stan, why don't you sit up there? I'll get you too.
You want to have one more shot?
Yeah. Stan, why don't you get up there?
Where my real throne is, right?
And a lot of people stepped in the gate of Sodom.
David, King David.
Yeah, they should put a toilet
Here
there.
the people were sitting here who were giving judgment. Weddings took place in gateways and all important ceremonies. So a gate's not just an opening in the wall, it's a very important place. The gate was closed at night and also opened in the morning. So you can just come in wherever you want to, you're visible, people are watching you. And if you needed counsel or a judgment, you went to the gate. So it's a courthouse as well, as a wedding place. And all the things that happen in the gate is in a structure like this. In the time of Solomon, they used to have 3 chambers on either side, so 6-chambered gateway. We're going to see that in Hazel and Hatzor, in Megiddo. Those are Solomonic city gates. But later, after the time of even Hezekiah, then they went down to earlier than that, in the 8th, 9th century. Then they started to reduce it to 4 chambers, 2 on either side. Yeah? And then you're actually now going to, and then there were doors barring this passageway, doors barring this passageway, and that one. So even if there's an enemy, you get through the first gate. First of all, you get rained by a shower of stones and arrowheads from on top, from the second story. We had a second story here as well. And then you've got a second gate to go conquer, and the third gate, and then you were inside the city. So it wasn't very easy. Okay, so now we're going to walk maybe 5-10 minutes, and then we come to the sacred site, the temple site, which was built by King Jeroboam for his golden calf.
One of the gate chambers.
Oh, I didn't hear him.
One of the gate chambers. Yeah, this is where the gate really was. Wow. Okay, let's keep up with him. He's a tough one to keep up with, isn't he? Look at that. I wonder how much of this was buried and that they had to uncover. Probably a considerable amount.
A good view of the gateway from here, the chambers of the gate. By the way, for those of you who want to see a picture of a gateway, I've got a reconstruction drawing here. Although this is the gate of Gezer, the gate all works the same. So this is a drawing which I made a long time ago, where from the inside you can look down the central passageway. Usually there's a drain underneath, draining the area for too much rainfall. So here's one, two, three chambers. There's a Solomonic gateway. Later on you've got two chambers. It used to have 2 stories, so the soldiers were on top here, having access to the top of the city wall, and often another tower on top for lookouts, so you see the enemy approaching from far. That's where the watchmen were. So the watchmen on the 3rd story, so the 2nd story, and down below is where the people came, but also the judges sat there, and weddings took place there. So this is more or less what a gateway would have looked like.
So 3 chambers is the Solomonic.
The Solomonic.
And 4 chambers is.
The 4th chamber is a bit later, 8th century. Yeah. Okay, let's walk.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And to slip by you. Ooh, the bus is gonna look good after today.
This is a porcupine. Porcupine nest.
Is that what that is?
Yeah. That's the part that it sticks out.
We want to get one of those.
We used to use this like a fishing thing. It'll float like that top, and we put a little bit of weight on it. We stand walk.
That's Mount Hermon, I think.
It's amazing.
Very stout too.
Boy, it looks like it. Would you find that on the ground?
Yeah, just laying right there.
My goodness. There must be a bunch of them around here. Be interesting to see some of the wildlife, but you'd have to get up early in the morning. Uh-huh.
Just stay here first.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
we see in this and go down there. Everybody they sound like the ones coming out of Egypt.
Yeah, they've got this trip planned well.
They do.
Right there. Now this is a cultic site. I wonder, was it here before David's palace?
Behind the
seats.
And Jeroboam ordained a feast, and he offered upon the altar, sacrificing unto the calves, and ordained a feast unto the children of Israel, and he offered upon the altar and burnt incense. 1 Kings 12, 32 and 33. Oops, go ahead. Ooh, here comes the rain. Right after talking about perfect weather. Okay, who's going to play the part of Jeroboam and who's going to play the part of the prophet? Huh? What? What? That's what we need. Okay. Okay. Okay, I'm willing to sacrifice my spiritual dignity and play the part of Jeroboam in the withered hand if somebody will play the prophet. Okay? And then somebody's got to play the sacrifice.
People ask them if they want to be the prophet. See what happens.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I can guess. That's right.
Very well. I don't think that when you left home that you would ever imagine you'll be sitting on the steps built by King Jeroboam, would you?
No, we didn't.
But you are. I'll read again what happened after the kingdom split and Rehoboam, because he forsook the counsel of the wise men and listened to his young friends. Then Jeroboam, he built Shechem in Mount Ephraim, and he dwelt there, and he went out, he built Penuel, and then he said in his heart, now shall the kingdom return to the house of David. If this people go up to do sacrifice in the house of Yahweh at Jerusalem, then shall the heart of this people turn again unto their Lord, unto Rehoboam, king of Judah, and they shall kill me and go against the Rehoboam, king of Judah. So he saw it as a religious problem, the split between Israel and Judah. Whereupon the king took counsel, made 2 calves of gold, and said unto them, it is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. Behold, thy God Israel, which brought you up out of the land of Egypt. He set the one in Bethel, and the other put in Dan, and this thing became a sin. For the people went to worship before the one, even unto Dan. Now when you think, what did he do? Just make a clearance in the forest to put a golden calf there? He had to build a rival sanctuary to the big temple in Jerusalem. So he didn't build a little platform and put a golden calf on there. He built a replica of the temple in Jerusalem. Now I've got a reconstruction drawing here, partial reconstruction drawing. So this actually is what he built. You're sitting on the steps, which led to a big square platform. You can see this is the southern wall of it. A big square platform. Would have been a building on top of it. There's chambers, and in the center, right if you climbed the steps, you saw that huge image of a golden calf. And it's not just that he was the first one to build a golden calf. People came to worship here. They took little calves home with them as a souvenir. They found one in Dothan, and they found one in Ashkelon. Little bronze bulls about this size. So it became a thing of going back to the Sinai worship of the golden calf. So what he built was a big complex. You see those walls there, they're chambers for the priests. There are little altars there and libation vessels buried in the ground. Those are these chambers right here. This is part like the temple. Has chambers all around the Temple Mount. They haven't excavated there, but if they would, because you run out of money digging, then you find, I believe, another series of chambers going this way. So you're sitting on the steps leading up to the big temple platform where the golden calf stood, and here was the altar. So the altar was in a separate little courtyard with an entrance. There you can see one, another one there. And then here on this side, there's a staircase leading up, and we calculated this was the height of the altar where they brought sacrifices. So a big wall built all around it. So it was a massive cultic center copying the temple in Jerusalem. And that, I believe, is the value coming to sites like this, because we read about, oh, he set a place for the golden calf. Well, what did it look like? Well, it was a massive construction, a big temple rivaling that of Jerusalem. In order to keep the people away from Jerusalem, we had to build something really super, something that looks like Jerusalem, although on a slightly smaller scale. Yeah, so all that went through his mind, and is the result of his work. So this is right in the middle of the city, well, almost at the northern end, because the city was right behind you there. And these are the two major elements that are excavated, the whole gate complex, showing how strongly fortified the city was, and then this ceremonial complex to rival the Temple of Jerusalem. There's something else interesting. When you read about Solomon building the temple, he built the walls with 3 rows of stone and a row of cedar wood. But this is the same here. If you go around the corner, you can see 3 rows of stones, and then there was a groove made in the stones where a long cedar beam went through. Not very deep, only about so deep and about so high, but all around these buildings. 3 rows of stones and a row of cedar wood. You read it in the Bible, you know that? But why? Was it just for decoration? It's an earthquake-proof design. Because the rows of stone, well, you try to build them on the rock, but you build a foundation, rock is very deep here, so earthquake will move the building around. You get those long cedar beams inside the walls, and you see them in the gateways in Megiddo, for example, in Solomonic buildings. I believe it's an earthquake-proof design to keep the building together. Even when the building shakes, those long timbers hold the stone courses together, 3 courses at a time. Go around the corner, you can see actually the reconstructed cedar wooden beams in there. So he copied not only the design, but even the construction of King Solomon in this temple complex. Yeah? Any questions?
Lots.
Too much.
How much of this was buried, Lane?
But you read 1 Kings 12 and you go home. What I counsel you to do, I know it's a lot to take in. If you remember 30% of what you hear from Zach and Steve and myself, then it's a lot. Number 1, take notes. You think you can remember it all, you can't. And second time, perhaps it's a way to study the Bible. If you read about Dan, well, get a concordance out and look where Dan appears right through the Bible. Look at all those passages and the events that took place there. See name changes and what did people do there and for what particular reason. It gives you such an insight into the background of the Bible, which is very informative. As I say, you never read the Bible the same. Most Christian groups, as you saw there at Caesarea Philippi, the minister comes along, they sing some hymns, he gives a sermon, not very different from what he does back home. They didn't even go up to look at the temple site. Don't understand why Jesus went to Caesarea Philippi. So this is just to make you read the Bible a bit more carefully. Okay.
Now, was this all buried up to that level of ground?
Yeah, that was the ground level. Yeah.
And it sloped down?
How do you decide where to dig?
Right, yeah. Good question. I wish I'd asked that one.
Well, Steve, how do you decide where to dig? Well, he's an archaeologist. Toss a coin. Well, it's a bit more sophisticated than that. I know Steve better than he makes himself out to be. You look at the contour of the site. You look at where the roads go, and you look where the water supply is. Even if you can't see the water, you can still know where the water is. There's plenty of water here. But there's only 1 spring in Megiddo, 1 in Hatzor. There are some trees growing. Yes? You can see where the gateway is, the mount dips a little bit. So you can also, from the contours, you can actually study where the gateway is. And then the palaces and the temples are built on the highest place, on the Acropolis, which is this place here. So you dig. Well, you see the ground slopes down there, it slopes down this way, it slopes down that way, you can hardly miss it. So, because you go on the experience of other excavators, how they excavate. And you can't excavate the whole site. You'll be 100 years busy with it. You don't want to do that either. You want to preserve something for next generation, but you want to find out the character of this place. But you know, the city wall, the gateway, the public buildings, an example of some dwellings which you saw when you came walking on the right-hand side. That's as much as you can achieve.
Is it just like this when you dig it out, or is it being put back together?
No, this is more or less as it was found, but since all our excavations become part of the public park system, often just for the orientation of people, if a stone course is only one course left, then people don't know whether it's a step or a wall or what, so you build up 2 or 3 courses just to give you an idea of spatial orientation. Or you can build a metal altar to give you the size. You don't want to rebuild the whole altar. This is as it was found, but you study other altars, you can see the steps going up, you know the dimensions, the proportion between the length and the height. So this is more or less the idea of an altar, is the horns on the corner. Because we want to teach people what it once looked like, but you don't reconstruct the whole thing because you don't know. You're not supposed to reconstruct more than we know. But most walls stand up at least to this height. And if all the walls are built to this height, then people know more or less what are the boundaries of buildings, where one begins and ends and where the next one starts.
So where did all the dirt come from?
Cities are built, like Dan is a good example. You'll see later on when we go to the gate from the time of Abraham. Usually they find a place, a strategic place, usually a little rise in the mountainside, next to a water source, a road system, and good fertile fields. To protect a city like that, in the time of Abraham, say, they start to build massive mud brick walls all around the site. Well, you need, like in Sodom which you're excavating, how much do you calculate? How many bricks do you need? 40 million?
Yeah, somewhere for the upper and lower ramparts, somewhere between 150 and 200 million mud bricks.
Yeah, but those people don't produce food. They consume food. So you must have a large field area where you can grow food. You have to keep those people going. They build those massive ramps which are 20, 30 feet high, all around, like a ring around the city. So people live in a bowl. So they're kind of protected by these massive earthen ramps. Sometimes a little wall built on top of it. But yeah, we're sitting right on one now here. We can see it better when we go to the gateway. And so people live in, but they get conquered, houses destroyed. The next group comes along, flatten the whole area, build another city on top of the ruins of the other one. They get destroyed, and so on. So you get inside this bowl, you get layer upon layer upon layer of civilization, until they went out of use in the time of Alexander the Great, when the Hellenistic cities started to develop. When you go to Bet Shan, you can see a big tell, and then the big Hellenistic city on the bottom of it, because Alexander the Great said, those tells are far too small for me, I need bigger cities. But so inside you find an accumulation of sometimes up to 25 different periods of destruction layer. So you dig through it like a vertical layered cake, and because you compare one side with another, you can see from the pottery what time period we are excavating.
So it's just a case of manual labour, bringing all this dirt and
manual
building these
labour.
bricks and just
You
putting
may
them
use a
on
bulldozer to get rid of the dump, and you can't put a bulldozer in here because you lose all the... So how can we date a site like this? It's by the pottery mainly which you find. You get extra information if you find glass or especially coins or inscriptions, but it's mainly pottery. So the whole chart of pottery, which are the same. See, when you buy a couple of a tea set, for example, well, if you buy one, I buy one, they look totally different. In the past, there was only one tea set, and it's the same all over the whole area. So you know exactly what time period we are talking about. So the pottery tells you what kind of oil lamp it is. For example, oil lamps change through time, but it all the same change in all the cities the same. So you can compare them, and that's how you build it with time scale. And then you read also historical sources. Here we use the Bible, for example. Jeroboam built a temple, well, a place for the golden calf. Well, this is it. Can't be anything else.
Just one question. Was the altar in Jerusalem that Solomon built the same size as this?
A bit bigger than this.
Yeah.
It was a slightly miniature scale of the temple in Jerusalem. But then not too many people lived here, so.
No. Thank you.
One question up here. When you actually find this, do you find ash? Do you find...
Yeah, you find destruction layers, very much so. For example, we read about the Babylonian destruction, but you find it in all the sites. When you go to Hatzor, you find the conquest of Joshua, who burned the city. Like the whole palace, the stone actually just fractured from the heat that was produced by the burning of the city. Most of the battles in the Bible have been recorded in archaeological excavations, if you do your dating properly. Yeah. So you find the destruction of the Assyrians, of Joshua, of the Assyrians, of the Babylonians, of the Romans. You're digging in Jerusalem, the middle gate, mentioned in Jeremiah 39. Your hands get black with the soot of the burning of the city. You find the arrowheads of the Babylonian and the Israelite army.
Oh.
I mean, that is frightening, but it's very exciting to read that.
Yeah.
So all those battles suddenly become to life to you. Sometimes they were destroyed by earthquakes.
Yeah.
So the destruction of sites is also an important field of study.
Ready for Abraham?
Ready for Abraham.
Okay.
And then the bus.
One comment. I want you to notice it's four cornered.
Yeah.
Okay. But we're going to go to Megiddo. And then we're going to see beneath the Israelite altar, there's a Canaanite altar. And that is round. Why is that round and this one's square? Israelite altar. Just throwing out the question. We'll come back to it.
Four-square encampment of Israel.
Yep.
Is one idea. Oh, this is where the golden calf was, eh? Okay, so in relation to what we just saw behind us, where Jeroboam's altar was, this is a wall in which, isn't this amazing? Where the golden calves were set up by Jeroboam. This is huge. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13, 15, 16, 17. 22 long. By 22.
Maybe it's a water source.
Okay, we're going off to see where Abraham was. We're trailing behind. There goes our group up there. Yeah, well, Frank had a great idea. We could have done a little skit right there with Jeroboam and the prophets and the prophet Ahijah, but, well, got pushed. That was from the 6-Day War. This is from the 6-Day War. This is actually probably a Syrian bulldozer or an Israeli bulldozer that got smashed. Where y'all going? Man, where you going? Where you going? Don't go down in there, man. It looks scary.
It's muddy too.
That's a bunker, huh? But betting sure this is the Lord. Is this the one they vacated when they heard that that false radio broadcast? The lone cow.
This is going well.
Beyond it.
Okay, people, if you look down below here, see the right track here, there's the security road, and the border with Lebanon is right behind it. These are the soldiers patrolling the security road, 2 of them. That's since 1948, or since the border. So right in front of us is the Bika Valley of Lebanon. And Mount Hermon, this peak which you see here, is the land of Israel. The ridge behind there is Syria. So you can't go further north than here. This is the northernmost border of Israel. Has been so since 1948. Which ridge is Syria? Now, see, this Mount Hermon's got 2 peaks. That one, the highest one, is the land of Israel. The one behind it, which you can't see, if you're going there, is Syria.
Lane, what city is that over there to the left? You know the city?
Marat Ayun. Marat Ayun. There was a war between the LASHA and the Syrians. They are sitting in the middle of the ground there watching, like fireworks, shooting back and forth.
This is the one. Yeah.
Because it is all part of the Holy Land.
City over. Nothing to go over here in front of the wall.
You can't hit him with a sling stone, you probably can't hit him with an arrow. He's got 30% more distance and velocity than you've got. So by the time you hit the second revetment, well, you're not going to hit the second revetment because you're going to be dead.
So the whole purpose of the flat is to essentially get them standing in exactly the right spot that you can kill
and
them.
now it makes you stop, and it makes you come up against the revetment, and now I have to swing my leg up, or I have to get a ladder. I have to do something to negotiate it, and by the time you do, you've got 50 sling stones coming down on you. And you're just dead. And a sling stone like this, as big as a baseball, coming at 150 miles an hour, and these guys are deadly. I've seen these guys with slings who are really practiced at 50 yards with a watermelon on a post. They'll smack it every time.
That's something.
And these guys were good. I mean, it's like David was not afraid of Goliath. I mean, if you're a shepherd, what do you do all day?
Throw rocks. Sling rocks.
All David did all day was...
He's directing his flock with those things.
You know, yeah. I mean, he's all day. So when he looks at Goliath, he goes, God, big target. You know, simple. So little old David, he stops, you know, and he picks up his stones and gets nice, some good spheroids, you know, about that big. Pops one in for Goliath's brothers, you know. For each one. That's right. And comes out, and here's what David's doing. Here's Goliath out here, and David knows that he can hit anything that small.
Hair's breadth, I think.
From probably 30 meters, you know, 30 yards. Okay, so what he's doing, and Goliath's going, ah! Send me a champion, you know, come out here and beat me. And David's coming up, he's just got his little sling stone like this. He's walking calmly, and he's walking 50 meters, you know, 50 cubits, 40 cubits, 30 cubits. God, this guy's dumb. 20 cubits, 15 cubits.
Yeah.
That's a great question.
Whap! That was the end of it.
Then he cut his head off.
No divine guidance, nothing. I mean, David was just flat out confident he could toast this guy. Yeah, of course. But still, it's just. And by the way, all the old Bible scholars always say, yeah, that kind of, you know, gaze, you know, kind of knocked him kind of cuckoo, and he kind of fell down. And then what David really did was pick up his sword and kill him. No, he killed Goliath.
Yeah, he killed with a stone, but the head was a trophy.
Says it sank into his forehead.
Mm-hmm.
It crushed his skull. And
the area.
That was the end of it.
The area of judgment.
But I can just see little David. It's just like, but by the way, you say, well, how can a little 12-year-old kid do this? You ever seen a 12-year-old female softball pitcher?
Oh yeah.
90 miles an hour fastball. You know, a 12-year-old girl can do that. Now you take a sling stone, that weight, add a cubit sling, do it's one rotation, always underhanded, never like this, because you will throw your shoulder out with that kind of weight. Sling stone.
I did that one day, threw my shoulder out with a sling.
Or you'll conk yourself in the head with the guy next to you.
I might have done that, but I don't remember.
We see that on the Assyrian reliefs of Lachish.
Yeah.
The attack of Lachish. The stone is up there. Why? Because it's in a backward motion.
Mm-hmm.
Coming around, and it release like that. And that's deadly.
Yeah, it is.
And it's going at over 150 miles an hour at release, and it's going with dead aim. Dead aim. Within about maybe 30 meters, dead. I mean, hit anything you want.
Yeah.
After that, it gets a little guessy.
Wasn't it the
Hundreds of
Benjamites?
sling stones converging like this.
Wasn't it the Benjamites that could hit left-handed at a hair's breadth with a sling?
With a sling thing.
Yeah.
They had
Hair's breadth.
600. The Benjamites
Yeah.
had 600 slingers
Yeah.
who could sling at a hair. And that's a
And
hair.
don't miss.
And not miss.
Not rabbit.
That's amazing.
And not miss.
Why did they use a sling and not a bow and arrow?
Yeah, some are a little
Well,
smaller. Kind of average baseball.
I don't know. You tell me.
What does Benjamin mean?
Or son of the right hand.
Yeah, but the right hand was bound up. They couldn't use it. It was
Oh,
paralyzed.
that's right. That's right.
You need two hands for bow and arrow,
Right. Okay.
but one for a sling.
Yeah.
So we were reduced to using slingers. In the
Yeah.
time of David,
That's right.
they could use both the right and the left hand. In the Hebrew, it doesn't say that the right hand, that they were left-handed. It doesn't say so in the Hebrew.
Oh.
So they're bound up in the right hand.
Let's go to Abraham's game.
They couldn't use the right hand. The right hand is a type of salvation. It says to Job, you can lay down all the fools of heaven. I acknowledge that your own right hand can save you.
That's good.
When there was David, the right hand was loosed.
I see.
They could use both hands. They could use bow and arrow then.
Excellent.
So it's a wonderful type.
Yeah,
We all
it
like
really is a
to,
beautiful
although we are
type.
the son of the right hand, we can't use our right hand. We can't save ourselves.
Nope, we sure can't.
Jesus is the right hand.
He is the right hand.
He's
That's
the
good.
Benjamin.
Yeah,
He's Benjamin.
that's right.
They could use the right hand.
Isn't that great? That's
really
wonderful.
But when in this day, read in Chronicles, they could use both hands.
Yeah.
So the right hand was suddenly loosened because they were saved. There is the Redeemer. There is
Oh,
David.
yeah, I see the lesson. That's absolutely wonderful.
Fantastic lesson.
Yeah,
The translator didn't know what it means, bound in your
Bound
right hand.
in the right hand.
Atarimino, it says. They're bound in the right hand. What's that mean? Oh, they were left-handed. No, they were not left-handed. But they had to use their left hand because they couldn't use the right hand.
right. Yeah.
And one of my sisters was left-handed, but he was not allowed to use her left hand in school, you see. Got whacked on the hand, so she had to use her right hand. But she's actually originally left-handed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm right-handed, but the Benjamites were right-handed, but couldn't use it because whatever it means,
And it
the
kept,
right hand was bound up. It was like paralyzed, like,
Sure,
like
sure,
this. They couldn't use them.
now, why was that again? Why were they bound up in their left hand? Was there a historical event that caused that?
Well, we don't know that. It's just mentioned.
It wasn't the period of time when, in the Judges, when the Benjamite tribe was decimated, was it?
Yes, your Ehud.
Mm-hmm.
And then he put his sword
Yes, yes, yes.
On his
Oh,
right-hand
yeah,
side.
yeah,
But they only check the left-hand side, you see.
right.
Now you and I would put a dagger. You want to grab it, not like this. You have to grab it here.
Oh, we're going the wrong way? We don't know our left hand from our right.
So normally you grab your dagger like this. So you should check only underneath there, nothing there.
Right.
But he was bound in his right hand, so he had the dagger on the right hand side. You see? They didn't check.
Oh, yeah, they didn't check it. Boy.
But whether it was genetic or what it was, it basically means paralyzed in your right hand.
Mm-hmm.
So they couldn't use the right hand, and of necessity had to use the left hand.
Oh, yeah, okay. Have you met Wendy, my wife? You know, met her. Okay, good. So they couldn't use the right hand, they were bound in the left hand. Yeah, those are all over the place in Australia. What'd you find?
Over there.
Oh, up there on the mountain.
We're going to go to Nimrod Castle.
Oh, Castle of Nimrod.
The Nimrod Castle
We might, I mean, well, we can...
guarded the road from Damascus to Tyre. And you get castles all the way from Damascus. You get Calat Nimrod. Then you get Junin on the other side of the valley. You get Belvoir. And then you go to Tyre or Sidon. So this is east-west route and it's fully guarded. But I would say that Abraham, if he came from Damascus, would have come by that castle, maybe the first view he had of the land. And Paul, when he went to Damascus, he probably would have taken this route as well, because this is Mount Hermon range, it goes down and even goes on the plateau, which is for the Golan on this side. Further inland is the Bashan area. There's a Roman road right at the foot of Mount Hermon going straight to Damascus, which isn't far from here, maybe 50 kilometers.
By the way, from this vantage point, you could see that the geological fault that separates Mount Hermon, which is an anticline, limestone anticline, pushed up by the Syrian African Rift Valley, from the Golan Heights, which is a volcanic plateau. So you see in front of us is a village called Ein Kinya, a Druze village. Now, to the right of that Druze village, there is a ravine. Okay, you see like there's a ravine. And then you have this flat plateau. So everything to the right of that ravine is all volcanic. Everything to the left of it with the village, you see it's reddish color, it's all limestone. And where those two kinds of stone meet, of course, and where that join is, like in all materials, you're going to have a weak point, and so it's eroded away. And what we planned on doing, if we ever make it, is to actually, take that road, and the road follows that ravine, and it's a drop-off there. So Hermon actually begins right where that ravine is, including the village, and everything on up that way. And the Golan Heights actually begins right at that point, extending south all the way, of course, to the Yarmouk River, south of Sea of Galilee. And the gate's right there.
We've just come around the corner from that explanation. That's an enormous tree. Look at that tree. That's a good vantage point. There's a bird.
Stay here that we can all see.
Yeah.
That's a good spot.
Okay, I'll stand on the tree.
Stand on the tree. Remember Moses stood on the rock and lifted his staff, laying on the tree.
I can split the road. There it is, open to the
In
gate.
Texas, we call them stump jumpers.
This is quite an historic feature we see here. It's one of the earliest constructions we have here after Jericho. Remember, the cities were built in the time of Abraham by building a big mud brick wall all around the city. Well, here you can see that where the trees are, this is all mud brick. And inside the wall itself, you can see it going around there, they built an opening, which the opening now is the wood, that's not the original opening. If you look close by, you can see there's an arch there made of mud bricks. One of the earliest arches we have in ancient architecture, made of mud brick. There's only another one in Ashkelon. But the gate is very, if you go in there are again 2 chambers on either side of the central passageway, and that was the original gateway into the city called LASHA. Yeah, so this is not Dan, it was LASHA. That is the city that was existing here during the time of Abraham. So he knew the place when he came down from Damascus, and there's the invasion route of the kings of the north, and he came back and pursued them unto Dan. Now because the mud brick, once you expose it, it deteriorates very, very quickly. So they had to protect it. You can't even excavate the whole of the archway because it would just collapse and fall down. So inside the fill, which is inside the passageway, they cut a little opening and support with wooden beams so you can actually go to the inside. But it is so fragile that if it is open for the public, it will be gone in 10 years. Therefore you've got this fantastic Abrahamic archway over the gateway to protect it from the elements. The upper parts have been, have been reconstructed. You can see on the left-hand side of the gate, below that protective arch, mud bricks stacked up there. So you can imagine that you make them by getting mud from here. There's like plenty of mud around here, soil. You mix it with straw, put it in wooden boxes, let it sun dry, you tip them out, and then you stack them on the side until they're fully dried, and you just stack them up and you glue them together with mud. And that's how not only the gateway was built, the whole of the city wall was built like that. Okay, imagine what a huge work that was. But most of those big cities we're going to visit, Dan, Hatzor, Megiddo, Lachish and all that, they were all built like that. And because you need such a huge force of manpower, you must control large lands to grow enough food to feed your buildings. So we call these cities actually city-states, because the whole of the Upper Galilee was just controlled by 2 cities, by Dan in the north and Hatzor in the south. There's no room for anybody else, because you need all the land to grow the crops to feed this massive population of laborers to build your city walls. And then they lived inside a bowl, built houses inside, and then they got attacked and destroyed, flattened, next civilization. So inside you find layer upon layer until eventually it reaches the top. So therefore most of those ancient site looks, we call them a tell, there's a raised ruinous heap. It has steep sides which are the original mud brick fortification, but inside it's all flat. If you dig down inside you find many different occupation layers. That's how you learn about the history of the site, and this one goes back at least 4,000 years. So this is the original site of LASHA, also called LASHA in Genesis 10, and Leshem in Joshua, but this is the earliest period we have here in the land of Israel, construction-wise.
Amazing.
Have they allowed you inside?
Well, actually, I was asked to build a model of the gateway. Of course, I'm inside. The model is in the Israel Museum. With reconstruction drawings for these.
Wow.
Is this the same bricks like they was built in Egypt?
Yeah, you can build bricks, mud bricks, only one way.
Yeah.
You get soil, you go
straw.
to sift it, get all the stones and the things out, but clay is fragile. If it dries, it cracks. So you need straw to bind the particles together. Otherwise it won't stay together as a brick. But if you do, then they get pretty strong, you can stack them up. But often what they do in more sophisticated site, the outer layer of bricks they would burn in a kiln. Like the ziggurats in Babylon and all that, the outer shell is built of burnt mud bricks, and they're much stronger and they survive. Quite interestingly, in the site which Dr. Collins is excavating in Sodom, which I hope you can see, the city was destroyed by fire, as you can read in Genesis 19. The bricks which you excavate, normally you can be very careful with them because they break in your hands, don't they? But these ones are hard as stone. They've been burned by fire. So if you fire them, they get very, very hard. What is pottery? It's basically clay that is burned in a kiln, isn't it? But it's too laborious a process to build all your bricks, like kiln bricks, kiln dried bricks. So you have mud bricks, the central core, and often stronger ones on the outside. But the time of Abraham, would you believe it?
You said this was just excavating for the last 30 years?
About, 1807 I think it was claimed for the first time. You're not as old as Abraham. But I guess it is an insight, into the world which Abraham knew. and the kind of cities that were built at those times. So very different from the stone construction of King Jeroboam and King Solomon. Oh, that got on my perch.
They used it for a while, and then they closed it.
Brilliant idea, but it didn't work.
So they obviously decided somewhere else is better, so they built another gate somewhere, and we don't know where that is yet.
So what's the next step here? Further excavation?
They've been excavating here for 50 years.
Yeah.
This is the longest excavated site in Israel.
There's not much else.
The original excavator,
Trying to stabilize the front of
the original
walls
excavator,
over there.
Abraham Biram, died.
See the bricks over on the left?
Years old. He's still
Over
Those
there.
look like they're made, right?
Well, those are found.
Oh, they're
They didn't.
found.
Yeah, they didn't manufacture those. That was found at the same time. They just gave up.
It depends on your funds and on the necessity.
But the road is wonderful. See the stepped road?
Yeah.
Yeah, very nice.
So they didn't complete this edifice, right? They
Oh, yes.
Oh yeah,
They did
used
complete it?
They used it
For
for
a short time.
They used it for a
short
while,
time.
and
Okay,
then for some reason they decided
I see.
to wall it up and cover it over and make it part of the rampart. It was just hidden inside the rampart.
Oh wow.
So is it just good
How was it
portion
discovered?
that the earthquakes haven't damaged it?
You know, a mud brick structure is pretty stable if you don't get a really, really bad
Yeah,
earthquake.
apart from an arch. Well, an arch is
An
strong,
arch is very strong.
but then a mud brick arch is not very strong because the mud brick isn't very strong. So I think that was the problem. Because the new architectural invention looked great, but it didn't work over time. So the arch stone started sagging.
In other words, it's discontinued making that kind after a little while. It's
Yeah.
discontinued.
Yeah, you don't find it
How
anymore.
far does that go inside?
Until the Romans came, they got stone arches.
All the rooms in there are all excavated out now.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Good
that's like
question.
that. Two chambers inside.
How did they discover it if it was
Oh, they're pretty thick.
discovered?
About 6 foot thick. They have to be.
How deep does the doorway go in, or the room itself? How
It's
deep
about,
is
what,
it?
15, 20 meters?
15 meters at the base.
Really?
Well, you can, the wall's about 2 meters thick.
Right.
So 1, 2, 3 wall make you 6 meters. You have
Right.
4 meter gate in between. So 6 and 8, 14 meters thick. It's big. It's like a square building.
Oh,
You
inside.
see how wide it is?
Mm-hmm.
It's a square building.
Okay. And how tall do you think it went up? Do you think it went up pretty tall?
No, that's about the
That's about the top of it.
maybe a little bit high, maybe not a meter, not much.
I think there was actually a little bit of the roof, lime roof preserved.
Yeah, it was at the
places.
parapet going
Yeah,
around.
around it. Yeah, so it was preserved almost to its complete height.
Really?
But only because they covered it up,
Yeah, I see.
buried it, and made it part of the ramparts.
Mm-hmm.
The widest, the
Yeah,
rim.
they only used it about 50 years.
That's what protects.
That's what protected it. How did they discover it? That's a good question. Lane, how did they, what was, oh, there you go. When did they, what was the circumstances of the discovery of this gate? You remember? How they actually saw it?
No, I think that they found the stones on the outside.
Maybe and followed it up.
And they followed it up. I think that's how they found it.
Hmm.
But then you don't find stones in a mud brick ramp. So I think they found stones.
See the foundation right to the right of the doorway? The stones coming up and the mud brick laid on? That's a dry laid bowling field. You look underneath that. In fact, before they built all of this, we actually looked around the foundation. And it's boulders, like this, but they're dry laid. They're no mud between, it's open. And the reason they do that is because in the wet, you want a place where the water can
I didn't know they found all these places.
That's quite amazing.
Yes, that's the original road. This is rampart only. And that was not atypical. That was pretty kind of average. But some of them augmented. They always started with the rampart. That was a typical. You had this big berm around the city. And by the way, that berm is very effective. Because if you have soldiers positioned all the way around, with their shields or just with movable wooden parapets.
Yeah, the guy's got to come up.
Mm-hmm.
You're very effective with a guy because these slopes are average about 35 degrees. You ever try to climb up a 35-degree slope, you almost have to do it on all fours.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, if it's slick, which these things were kept
Yeah.
groomed, you have to come up on all fours. You can't stand up on that kind of a slope. You just
And that makes you so vulnerable.
and especially in ancient shoes. Now you
Yeah.
might Nikes, but
Yeah.
but you're not doing it with ancient type shoes. I mean, it was very difficult.
Yeah.
So in fact, it would have been easier to go up barefooted. But that wouldn't be a good idea either.
Unless you had long toenails.
Yeah. So the rampart system was a very effective piece of fortification.
Did you see that little altar? Some of the olive trees they claim, but this is a eucalyptus tree and it sheds all of its bark, and you see all the bark laying around. So before you buy a, did you see all of these cargo containers? From the war. We're backing up.